All right, good morning, everyone. As you can tell by the directions, if you could please get out your graph from yesterday. If you were absent yesterday, please see Mrs. Weed. She has a pile of the extras and she'd be happy to give you one. Yesterday, we graphed the wind speed and the air pressure for hurricanes, for Hurricane Katrina. We made a double y-axis graph, and then we had time across the x-axis. And I want you to look a few things over. Thing number one is, does it have a title? It should be either the effect of wind speed on air pressure or the effect of air pressure on wind speed. You decide which one makes more sense. Are there units on all three of your axes? So you have two x-axes. One should be labeled with knots, and one should be labeled with millibars. And then your x-axis obviously is date and time. Does the graph make sense, and do you see the pattern? Because there is a pattern. There is a very definitive pattern between air pressure and wind speed, and you should be able to spot it by looking at the graph you just made. If you need another moment to get situated, go ahead and pause this video until everyone's ready to move on. All right, let's move on. So this is just the quick mock-up that I showed you in class yesterday. Title, units in air pressure, which would be your millibars, units in wind speed, which would be your knots. So this is this graph was taken from your book. It looks like this is from a hurricane that happened in Western Australia. And you can tell that let's take a look at this thing. The pressure is in this golden color, and the wind speed is in this red color. And as pressure decreases and it gets lower and lower and lower, the wind speed obviously will increase. And so that is that is the pattern that we have been looking for. So today we're going to look at mapping and tracking hurricanes. So the National Weather Service monitors hurricanes with radar. And so we keep track of them using things like Doppler radar. Once it develops into a storm, so remember yesterday how we talked about how it's a depression, then it's a tropical storm, then it's a hurricane. Once it gets to be a storm, and that is usually when it gets a number, they send hurricane hunter planes to measure the storm. So there's special planes that go and they take some data to see what's happening. Now, the most important part is this. This is all done by computers now. They then look at the characteristics of the storm, how big it is, how fast it's going, the air pressure, the size of the eye, all of the things that we keep data on. They compare it to other storms, and that is how they estimate the path. They also have to look at the jet stream to see what that is doing, because it's common for the jet stream to have a large role in the path of a hurricane. And so they compare it to historical storms that had similar features, and then they can start making their predictions about land arrival and, evacuation notices to residents. So here is everything that we measure about a hurricane. We measure how fast it's moving. We measure the wind speed on the edges. We measure the speed of the center of it. This is all showing the extent of the data tracking that we do for hurricanes. This is Tropical Storm Dean from August 14th, 2007. And it's showing how the path kind of hooked and followed the coast there of South America a little bit before it started headed for the Gulf. So we take the paths of historical hurricanes and we compare them to what we have right in front of us. And it's simply learning from history and learning from what nature did in the past and what it might do now. Friendly reminders for those of you who frequently get latitude and longitude confused. You're going to be doing some mapping today. And so friendly reminder that latitude are the north and south measurements, and they measure distance from the equator. And longitude is your east-west measurements, measuring from the prime meridian. These symbols, and I'll show you on another slide today, these symbols are what you're going to see from the National Weather Service representing a depression, a storm, and a hurricane. So notice how it starts as a little circle. We add some little wings to it for a tropical storm, and then we fill in the center when it's a hurricane. So as it's tracked, notice how the little symbols change as the storm changes. And so as you're doing your map today, your little symbols are going to change as well. So on your map, Mrs. Weed, if you haven't passed it out yet, go ahead and hand this map out. You should have a map on one side, and then there's some questions on the other. So this is a map that the National Weather Service uses. Look at that, the NOAA. I got a legit map for you guys. And you are going to plot the path that Hurricane Katrina took using the correct symbols, using those correct symbols. If you want students, I'll have this on the slide as well that Mrs. Weed can put up, but if you want to take a moment and take a picture of this, these are your symbols. And so you're going to be using a plus sign for where it starts, a circle for a tropical depression, and the little circle with wings for tropical storm, and then the circle with wings and filled in for the hurricane. Take a picture if you want to, but it'll also be on a slide that Mrs. Weed can show you from the sub notes. While folks are taking pictures, you should have two things in front of you. Well, three things technically. You should have the paper from yesterday that has the latitudes and longitudes and the status of the storm with your graph on the back of it. You should then have the paper from today that has the map on the front of it and some questions on the back of it. Your third thing obviously should be a pencil. I apologize for all of my sniffling. The allergies are just getting the best of me here. So let's do the first one together. So notice how it has a latitude of 23.2 and a longitude of 75.5 degrees west. So let's go to our map. And oh gosh, of course, the screenshot that I took on here has these little itty bitty tiny numbers that I cannot see. So let's see if I can get a fresh one. So 20 degrees latitude is right about here where it says Mexico. And if this is 25, I'm going to say that 23.2 is right about there. And then the other measurement we need is 75.5 degrees west. So on the map from the NOAA, that is at the bottom of your map. So my 75 degrees west line is right here. We're looking for 75.5. So we're going to go just a little bit off of the edge of that thing. And I'm totally estimating this. I'm going to put my plus sign right there because that's where we first started tracking the storm. So that's where my plus sign goes. And it's a tropical depression. Now notice on your next point at 24.7 degrees north, 76.7 degrees west, that is your tropical storm. So let's do that one while we're dealing with it, I suppose. So 24 is going to be a little bit higher than 23.2. And then 76.7, we're going to go a little bit further west and a little bit higher. And our symbol for a tropical storm is going to be the circle with the wings. So we're going to go, and I'm sorry, I'm doing this with a mouse, and this is going to look awful. Circle with wings. There it is. There's your first two plots. So you're going to spend a few moments there, and you're going to plot the path of Hurricane Katrina out using the coordinates that are on the front of yesterday's work. When you are finished with that, you're going to flip it over, and there are some questions to answer on the back. Last year, the kids tanked on this, so make sure, like the first one says, a hypothesis. It says in a brief but complete sentence, state a reasonable hypothesis to explain these observations. So remember, an hypothesis is going to start with if. So you're going to do an if-then statement that right in this first sentence. And so be sure to follow these directions, because I'm going to be grading these over spring break. And I'm going to care if you screw it up, so don't screw it up. So you're going to map out the path of Hurricane Katrina. You're going to answer these questions on the back. It's okay if you work with friends. I don't mind that. I do not want to read the exact same thing over and over and over again. So please put these in your own words. If I see verbatim copying, well, you know what happens. No one gets credit. The person you copied off it doesn't get credit, and you don't get credit. This is a lab grade. We've spent 2 days doing this, so please make good choices and put this information in your own words, even if you talk it through and think it through with a friend. Okay, so if you were here yesterday, which I know if you were or not, Mrs. Weed keeps track of the absences, so it will be easy to see if you're absent this day. It's due at the end of class, so you're going to take the first one from Monday and you're going to staple it to today's, preferably with your name on the front of it. That would be nice. And it's due at the end of class because all you're doing is mapping and answering 9 questions. That is a reasonable amount of work to be due at the end of class today. If you turn it in tomorrow and you were here both Monday and Tuesday, you'll need to attach a coupon to it and then get that to Miss Weed so she can get it back into the folder so I can grade it over break and you don't get a 0 for a big lab grade. There should be plenty of time. Like I told you yesterday, I'm not available over email. So if you have any burning questions that you just can't figure out, You're welcome to Google them, I guess. I mean, if it's an emergency, you can see Miss McCall. She's in that attached room, but all of this is in your notes. You can check the textbook. You should be able to figure these things out using your notes and your brain and your resources. I'm going to leave this here. I'm also going to put it on a slide in the subnotes so you have your symbols. Good luck getting it done. This will probably be the last time I leave a video for you. Friendly reminder that your test is on Thursday. You'll get the review guide tomorrow, and then you'll have an article to read on Friday. So for any of you that are heading on vacation early like I did, Friday's assignment is already on Canvas if you want to get that cranked out before you travel. Take care, and I'll see you when I get back.